to the world. It's Tuesday, January 13th. It's 4:59 CST. And I'm having a lot of fun with these lives, y'all. I appreciate everybody who's been tuning in. All the feedback that I've gotten has been, well, I guess not all of it has been helpful and constructive, but a lot of it has been very helpful and very constructive. So to those of you giving me helpful and constructive feedback, I'm infinitely grateful to and for you. For the trolls that say mean things about, I don't know, my greasy hair or the length of my neck, just know that you hurt my feelings. Welcome to the Daily Sigh. As always, we're going to have our ritualistic, great big deep breath in and exhale. It's the end of the day. And if you're an entrepreneur who's having a hard time keeping up with life, if you're like, there's so much information and news and data and launches and all these things, and I don't know what to do, and I feel left behind, this show is for you. I go live every single business day at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I do my best to give you everything that I think matters today. Not just the news, but also what you need to do with it. If you want the Daily Sigh delivered directly to your inbox, you can subscribe at dailysigh.ai. Today's theme is a three-front war: compliance, cost, and competition. And interestingly, you don't need to be good at any of these things, but you need to pay attention. So I actually talked about this yesterday. I'm going to try not to repeat stories too often, but this one's so important. The Labor Department guidelines have changed. The Labor Department dropped what I think is an absolute must-see. Pay attention to the new rules regarding what constitutes as an employee, what constitutes as a contractor. This is regardless of the size of your business. I think this applies to just about anybody and everybody that gets work done through other people, and it'll keep you from being sued. Some very specific guidelines for you to pay attention to are documentation, discipline, and delegation clarity. So make sure that you have the documentation that you need in order to cover your bases, to be frank, and make sure that you're being really clear about what the job role is and what it looks like. What you want to do is avoid confusion and resentment, because those two things are going to lead just full on to lawsuits. So a couple of really specific notes. The first one is handbook reality check. Do you have an employee handbook, and does it actually match how you operate? So if you have an old handbook, go back, look at it, update it. If you don't have a handbook, get one. They're available and accessible just about everywhere. I think if you subscribe to Legal Shield, I actually think one of their benefits is they create an employee handbook for you as part of the subscription. I'm not a Legal Shield affiliate. I should be. I've been using Legal Shield for damn near a decade, and I think, y'all, that's one of the best expenditures I've ever had as an entrepreneur. It's like $50 a month. I get to talk to a lawyer anytime I want. The legal advice ends up being pretty damn good. At least not bad. And there's all of these services that pay for themselves multiple times over. This is one of them. Legal Shield subscribers, I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong if you're watching this and you haven't seen this, but Legal Shield subscribers get an employee handbook and a bunch of other HR checks. Right now, that's critically important for small businesses. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that you have performance receipts. So the last thing, and I've been in this position, I think a lot of us have, if you ever need to justify a termination, you need to be able to go back and show the receipts. Put that in place. Have a delegation map. Who's responsible for what? And put that responsibility on paper and make sure that they know it. And then also have what we're calling a manager consistency test. If you have two managers handling the same thing, or dual reports, or redundancy, you're actually putting yourself in a position of legal exposure, which is interesting. I didn't know that. So take a look at anybody who has a business with employees, even if it's one employee. You're technically running a legal machine, is the way to think about it. That's a fact. And your job is to make sure that it's boring and consistent and documented. Not that the job is boring, but that the legal machine is boring. You never want an exciting legal machine. That's a good rule for life. The second story is one that I hope I don't glaze you over, but I do think it's important. Fed independence drama and why you should care. The headline: DOJ is investigating Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and what it's doing is it's spooking markets. Now, number one, the Federal Reserve is the most pernicious evil known to the Western world. I think the fact that an independent organization can just print our money is insane, and I don't know why we don't talk about it on a daily basis. And we're subjected to it, so until we can change it, we at least need to pay attention to it. Here's why this is really important for small businesses specifically: is anytime you have spooked markets due to the Fed, you have higher degrees of uncertainty, which means volatility. And especially for those of us, if you're in a direct to consumer business, any risk, any volatility is going to impact your income. So, and the other thing too is it's not just about the consumers; it's also about the businesses. If you're a business that lives on lines of credit, this could impact you too. So, a couple of things, notes for founders. If you have variable rate credit, variable rate debt, excuse me, check your exposure and take a look at what's potentially going to happen to you. These are the types of things that can make or break businesses. I saw this at Solutions 8. If you don't know, I had the number one ranked Google Ads agency in the world, and we spent $100 million a year of other people's money. And there's a fun saying that more businesses die of indigestion than of starvation. And I think this is a good category that fits inside of that saying, which is just make sure that your cash flow is set up in a way that is sustainable. And when rates change, it can change your cash flow situation. This isn't doom; it's adulthood. So your business can survive just about anything as long as you have the cash flow to sustain it. Couple rapid fire notes. Minimum wage hit a record milestone. Again, for my employers, minimum wage is at least $15 in most states. And it's actually not reducing financial pressure. What I'd recommend to you is pay more. Go places where you can pay more. If you're trying to scrape at the bottom of the barrel, I think you're doing it wrong. If you don't know, I wrote a book called Hire. You can have it for free, hirethebook.com. And it'll give you an entire template as to how to retain top talent. But your retention strategy cannot be pay a little bit more and pray. What it should be is pay a whole lot more and get somebody that does 10x what mediocre employees do. One of my favorite tools, Claude, just released. Y'all, this is amazing. If you haven't played with this is really worth doing. Anthropic launched Claude Cowork, and it's a feature that can access the folders on your computer. I think right now it's only for Mac users. And it reads, edits, and creates files from your desktop. So this is AI leaving the browser, which we're seeing more and more and more of. But here's AI that lives on your desktop, and it allows you, if you're familiar with Claude Code and using Claude 2 Code, imagine that same paradigm, but for tasks, and it works in the background. And so far, it doesn't really seem to slow my computer down much. So this thing, I think, can really start to weaponize you. The features still need to be built out a little bit. It needs to learn. But as important as the features is you getting into the habit of delegating some of these software tasks to this agentic tool that's now available to you. So I would call this delegation gasoline. I don't think this is just important to you. I think it's important for you and all your staff. I think your EA should be using Claude Cowork. I think your team should be using Claude Cowork. There's so many times that we get stuck just doing kind of rote and routine. I caught myself very recently, it was 72 hours ago, I was reorganizing files on my desktop, and I must have spent 45 minutes renaming things. At this point in my professional career, that is beneath my pay grade. It's beneath yours too, and that's the type of thing that you can hand to Claude Cowork. It's unbelievable, and it has access to effectively your entire desktop. I don't think it accesses hard drives, which could be a problem for some of you, especially you content creators. Alphabet just hit $4 trillion. Apple's leading on Google Gemini. Talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I think it's important today. The fact that Apple is not investing to the degree that everybody else is in AI, and instead just using Google's AI, I think is insane. Hopefully there's some secret behind the scenes, incubator that they have running that we don't know about. But I've been long on Google. I'm still long on Google. I think Google wins the AI space race. And the fact that Apple's leaning on them as hard as they are further goes to support that assertion. So, I'm not telling you, this isn't financial advice. And I think pay attention to Lord Google. Gemini Deep Research is my favorite deep research product by far. By a million miles. I still use ChatGPT on a daily basis, but to be honest with you, it's just because it has so much context. Claude is better, from my experience. Claude is better with some of the more complex thought. What do I want to call that? Like thought, like brainstorming activities. Gemini is better for research, deep research, and then Chat just has so much context, and extracting that context is really hard. I've tried a couple of times. If anybody has advice for me on that, I'd actually love to have it. Closing thoughts: compliance pressures rising, penalties, lawsuits, and we're going to see a lot. I think 2026 is going to be a resurgence of the ambulance chasing lawyers, soulless scum suckers. So just cover your ass. Anytime there's new legislation, you see the rise in litigation. I also think that the other thing that's interesting is this will lend itself to some pretty significant opportunities. Especially in the employment space. If you're in the recruiting space specifically, I'd pay very close attention right now. There's going to be huge swings, huge layoffs, and then huge hiring needs, and they're not necessarily going to match. So consumers are still price sensitive. The data shows weak value props are getting exposed very, very, very quickly. That doesn't mean that people aren't buying, but they're buying what matters. And so I pay attention to what's really working for you and double down on it. The rest of this feels Shopify pushing agentic commerce standards. That's going to be really interesting. Agentic commerce is going to be interesting. I'm excited to see what happens when ChatGPT integrates commerce, which they've teased over and over and over again, but I haven't seen live just yet. But in-app purchases are going to, if you really think about it, it's like the death of the funnel. It's the death of landing pages. It's the death of sales pages, because it's all going to be happening in-app, in whatever AI-driven app you happen to be using. And at a certain point, we're actually going to see the death of the screen, because you're not even going to be seeing it. You're going to be talking to it. There's going to be a voice engagement where you say, hey, ChatGPT, I need, order me 50 AA batteries, and where it comes from. And, that's the other thing that I think is really interesting is talk about a threat to Amazon. I hadn't really thought about that, but what ChatGPT might be the biggest Amazon competitor. And maybe that's ChatGPT plus Shopify. Who knows? That'll be really, really interesting. Please go play with Claude Cowork. That's the big takeaway. If you haven't played with Cowork, I think that's such a phenomenal unlock. And the other thing that I really like about it too is it's delegation training. All entrepreneurs need delegation training. Follow me here. If there's something that I missed, if you're like, dude, you didn't talk about whatever it is, hit me up in Messenger. Let me know. I'll see if I can tackle it tomorrow. And it's really helpful for me to calibrate on what's important to you. If I've helped you, the thing you can do to help me is share this. Share the Daily Sigh. If you want it delivered directly to your inbox, go to dailysigh.ai. As I mentioned at the beginning, I go live every single day at 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you that have been tuning in, this has been a fun little experiment for me. I would prioritize, this is the reason this is an experiment, by the way, is I was talking to Gemini Deep Research towards the end of 2025, just about the opportunities available to me and what I wanted to do, and the content that I'm going to create and the channels that I want to build. And because all social channels are prioritizing lives, the end result was to go live every day. Going live every day costs me, it's 15 minutes to go live, obviously, which is the promise. And I'm doing okay right now. I've been live for 12 minutes. And it probably costs me about 30 to 45 minutes of research a day. But because every single channel prioritizes lives, and I'm live right now instead of 5 channels, and I currently go live into Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and LinkedIn. The thing that I'm noticing is I'm noticing a blast radius that broadens beyond just the live videos. The other things that I post inside of those channels also seem to have, kind of this orbital increase. I don't know exactly why that is. If I had to guess, I think that these social channels are having a difficult time identifying who's AI and who's not, because there's been such a rush of AI into the market. And so going live is hard to spoof. And this is one of those little waving your hand in the air saying, hey, I'm a real human. I'm a real boy. And for whatever reason, that just ends up helping. So there's a rising tides lift to the rest of your content. So if you're not going live, try it. It's a fun little experiment. And I've been experimenting with a couple of things too. What's really interesting to me is when I go vertical the way that I am now, which Restream allows me to just decide, I'm on my laptop, but I'm using Restream. And so Restream lets me stream vertical. When I go vertical, my YouTube and Instagram engagement seems to be much, much, much higher. Let me just check Instagram real quick. But when I go horizontal, my Facebook engagement is much higher. And LinkedIn doesn't seem to move no matter what I do. So I don't know, interesting little lessons like this. If I were really smart, I'd set up StreamYard to stream into each channel according to the value proposition of that specific channel, but I haven't gotten there yet. My EA is trying to help me, but because I'm traveling a lot, I get all messed up. I'm at my mastermind this week, by the way. If you have an interest, if you need a mastermind home, if you want to join a community, go to drivenmastermind.com. Would love to see you there. It's $25K for the year. I think we're the greatest mastermind on the planet. And it reminded me of the importance of community today. I was just sitting there with this group of humans that I love, who are all wildly successful, who are all you still, I mean, just trying, no matter how much money they make or what type of impact they have, everybody's still trying to get bigger. And I love being around people like that. I love being around, I want to feel like I'm the dumbest, poorest person in the room. And I felt like that today in a really, really good, really powerful way. So if you're not the dumbest, poorest person in whatever room you happen to be in, get in a better room. Come join our room. Go to drivenmastermind.com. Thanks for tuning in.